Hello and welcome. Today, we embark on a journey to a land of almost mythical proportions, a place that occupies a vast and often enigmatic space in our collective imagination. I'm speaking, of course, about Russia. It's a nation that stretches across continents, a tapestry woven from countless cultures, and a landscape defined by extremes. From the silent, frozen expanses of Siberia to the gilded domes of its ancient cities, Russia defies simple explanation. It is a realm where history is measured not just in centuries, but in the sheer resilience of its people and the enduring power of its natural world. Over the course of our exploration, we will peel back the layers of this immense country, looking beyond the headlines and stereotypes. We'll discover a world of profound natural wonders, from the planet's deepest lake to its most extensive forests. We will encounter the echoes of Tsars and the whispers of literary giants whose stories have shaped not just Russia, but the entire world. It's a journey that will take us from the dawn of the space age to the heart of ancient fortresses, revealing a nation far more complex and fascinating than one might ever imagine. So, I invite you to join me as we venture into this extraordinary land. Together, we will uncover 20 remarkable facts that showcase the depth, the diversity, and the sheer, mind-blowing scale of Russia. It's a story of superlatives, of survival, and of a spirit that is as vast and untamed as the territory it calls home. Let us begin our exploration into the heart of this giant. To truly comprehend Russia, one must first grapple with its sheer, almost incomprehensible size. It is not merely a country, it is a world unto itself. Sprawling across more than 17 million square kilometers, it is a titan on the world map, dwarfing all other nations. Imagine the landmass of Canada, the second largest country, and then nearly double it. That is the scale of Russia. This immense territory is not confined to a single continent, but straddles two: the ancient storied lands of Europe and the vast wild expanses of Asia, with the Ural Mountains serving as the great silent divider between them. This geographical vastness has profound implications. As the sun rises over its eastern shores on the Pacific, it is still the previous day in its westernmost territories bordering Europe. The nation is bisected by an astonishing 11 different time zones. A flight from Kaliningrad in the west to Vladivostok in the east is a journey comparable to flying from London to New York and back again, all without ever leaving the borders of a single country. This incredible expanse means that Russia contains within it an unparalleled diversity of landscapes, from Arctic tundra and dense forests to sun-drenched steppes and towering mountain ranges. This scale is not just a geographical curiosity, it has shaped the very soul of the nation. It has dictated the course of its history, influenced the character of its people, and created a sense of boundless possibility and profound isolation. To travel across Russia is to witness the earth itself unfolding in all its varied majesty. It is a constant reminder that here, on this colossal stage, the dramas of nature and humanity play out on a scale that is truly epic, a scale that we are only just beginning to appreciate. While we often speak of Russia and Russians as a monolithic entity, the reality is a vibrant and intricate mosaic of human diversity. Within its vast borders, this nation is not home to one people, but to more than 150 distinct ethnic groups. Each of these communities brings with it a unique cultural legacy, a living history passed down through generations. They are the Tatars, the Bashkirs, the Chechens, the Chuvash, and scores of others, including the indigenous peoples of Siberia, whose connection to the land is ancient and profound. This rich tapestry of cultures means that to travel through Russia is to experience a constantly shifting landscape of traditions. In one region, you might hear the soft cadences of a Turkic language, while in another, the guttural sounds of a Caucasian dialect fill the air. The culinary traditions are just as varied. The hearty borscht and pelmeni you might find in Moscow give way to the rich, spiced pilafs of the Caucasus, or the delicate fish dishes of the peoples of the Far East. Each group celebrates its own festivals, sings its own songs, and tells its own stories, creating a cultural symphony of incredible complexity and beauty. This diversity is one of Russia's greatest, though perhaps least understood treasures. It is a testament to a history of migration, conquest, and coexistence that has unfolded over centuries across this immense land. While ethnic Russians form the majority, the identity of the nation as a whole is a composite, enriched by the contributions of all its peoples. To understand Russia is to appreciate this intricate web of humanity, to see it not as a single story, but as a grand anthology of countless different tales, all unfolding under one enormous sky. There is perhaps no single creation that better encapsulates the Russian ambition to conquer its own immense distances than the Trans-Siberian Railway. It is not merely a train line, it is a steel artery pumping life across the vast body of the nation. Stretching an incredible 9,288 kilometers, it is the longest railway line in the world, a monumental feat of engineering that connects the European heart of Moscow with the distant Pacific port of Vladivostok. To embark on this journey is to undertake one of the greatest travel adventures on Earth. The construction of this railway at the turn of the 20th century was a Herculean task, a battle against permafrost, impenetrable forests, and unforgiving wilderness. It took thousands of workers over a decade to lay these tracks, physically stitching the disparate parts of the empire together. The journey itself is a slow, rhythmic immersion into the changing soul of Russia. For nearly a week, passengers are suspended in time, watching the landscape transform outside their window. From the rolling hills of European Russia, across the great Siberian plains, and through the dense taiga, until the glint of the Pacific Ocean appears on the horizon. On board, a unique community forms. Strangers from all corners of the globe share stories, food, and laughter, united by the shared experience of crossing a continent. The train becomes a microcosm of Russia itself, a place of connection and contemplation. The rhythmic clatter of the wheels on the track is a constant companion, a sound that speaks of immense distances being overcome, of the human will to connect the seemingly unconnected. The Trans-Siberian Railway is more than just transport. It is a moving monument to Russia's scale and its enduring quest to master it. In the heart of Siberia lies a natural wonder of such magnitude that it almost defies belief. This is Lake Baikal, a place of superlatives and serene ancient beauty. Known to the local Buryat people as the Sacred Sea, Baikal holds a collection of world records that set it apart from any other body of fresh water on our planet. It is, by a significant margin, the deepest lake in the world, plunging to a depth of over 1,600 meters. So vast is its volume that it contains roughly 1/5 of all the world's unfrozen fresh surface water, more than all of the North American Great Lakes combined. But its scale is matched by its incredible age. Baikal is also the world's oldest lake, having formed in a rift valley some 25 to 30 million years ago. While other great lakes have come and gone, shaped by the ebb and flow of ice ages, Baikal has endured, a geological constant in a changing world. This immense age has allowed for a unique evolutionary path to unfold within its depths. The water itself is legendary for its purity and clarity, so transparent that in some areas one can see stones and objects 40 meters below the surface, as if looking through a pane of flawless glass. This combination of depth, age, and purity makes Baikal not just a lake, but a living laboratory. It is an ecosystem unlike any other, a sanctuary for life that has evolved in isolation for millennia. In winter, its surface freezes into vast sheets of turquoise ice, fractured by immense pressure ridges that groan and crack in the profound cold. To stand on the shores of Baikal is to feel a sense of deep time, to be in the presence of something ancient, powerful, and utterly unique. It is one of the planet's true jewels, cradled in the vastness of Siberia. On October 4, 1957, the quiet hum of the cosmos was forever changed. From a remote launch site in the Kazakh steppe, then part of the Soviet Union, a rocket soared into the heavens carrying a small polished metal sphere. This sphere, known as Sputnik 1, was the world's first artificial satellite. As it began to orbit the Earth, emitting a simple rhythmic beep that could be heard by radio operators across the globe, it signaled not just a technological triumph, but the dawn of an entirely new era for humanity, the space age. This audacious achievement stunned the world and ignited the space race, a period of intense competition between the Soviet Union and the United States that would push the boundaries of science and exploration. The success of Sputnik was the culmination of years of brilliant and secretive work by Soviet scientists and engineers, led by the enigmatic chief designer Sergei Korolev. It was a powerful statement of technological prowess, demonstrating that the Soviet Union was a formidable force in the fields of rocketry and celestial mechanics. The legacy of that moment is, honestly, immeasurable. It was a Russian creation that first broke our planet's gravitational bonds, paving the way for every satellite, space probe, and human spaceflight that has followed. Just a few years later, it would be a Russian cosmonaut, Yuri Gagarin, who would become the first human to journey into outer space, uttering the immortal words, "Poyakali, let's go." This pioneering spirit, born in the heart of the Soviet program, fundamentally altered our relationship with the universe and opened up a final frontier that continues to captivate our imagination today. The very concept of a city existing on two continents simultaneously sounds like something from a fantasy novel, yet in Russia, it is a geographical reality. The Ural Mountains, a long and ancient range, have traditionally served as the dividing line between Europe and Asia. While many countries lie on the border of continents, Russia is unique in that this dividing line runs directly through its own territory, and in some cases, right through the middle of its major urban centers. This creates a fascinating and unique urban identity for the inhabitants of these transcontinental cities. Cities like Magnitogorsk and Orenburg are bisected by the Ural River, which is often considered the geographical boundary. In these places, one can literally cross a bridge and walk from one continent to another in a matter of minutes. There are even monuments and obelisks marking the precise border, where visitors and locals alike can stand with one foot in Europe and the other in Asia. This isn't just a quirky geographical fact, it shapes the culture and commerce of these cities, which have historically served as gateways and melting pots, blending European and Asian influences. Perhaps the most famous example, though its continental status is debated by geographers, is Istanbul, which is in Turkey. However, within Russia itself, this phenomenon is a part of everyday life. This unique position has fostered a distinct mentality, a sense of being at a crossroads of civilizations. The people here are not just Europeans or Asians, they are both. This transcontinental existence is a powerful physical manifestation of Russia's dual identity, a nation that looks both to the west and to the east, its feet firmly planted in two different worlds. Russia is huge, right? Well, its culture is just as big, especially when you think about its amazing writers. They really showed the world what the Russian spirit is all about, all its strong feelings, its struggles, and its deep thoughts. These writers weren't just telling stories, they were like wise thinkers and honest observers of life. Their books and plays are famous everywhere and are super important in literature. Think about Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace. It's a massive book that mixes family stories with the huge event of Napoleon invading. It makes you think about history and what's meant to be. Then there's Fyodor Dostoevsky. He went deep into people's minds in books like Crime and Punishment and The Brothers Karamazov. He explored ideas about belief, choices, and what's right and wrong with a power that's still unmatched. His characters aren't just words on a page, they feel real, showing big spiritual and mental battles. And let's not forget Anton Chekhov. His plays and short stories gently show the quiet sadness and humor of everyday people. And Alexander Pushkin, who's like the dad of modern Russian writing, created a whole new way of writing with his poems and stories. These writers did more than just tell tales, they helped shape what it means to be Russian. They spoke for their country's hopes, fears, and mixed feelings. Their work is so truly Russian but also so human that people everywhere still connect with it. In the very heart of Moscow, on the banks of the Moskva River, stands a structure that is synonymous with Russia itself, the Kremlin. To many in the outside world, the word Kremlin simply means the seat of Russian political power. But to truly understand it is to see it as something far more ancient and complex. The Moscow Kremlin is, first and foremost, a Kremlin, the Russian word for a fortress or citadel. Its formidable red brick walls and imposing towers are not merely decorative. They are the defenses of an ancient stronghold that has stood at the center of Russian history for over 500 years. Construction of the current Kremlin began in the 15th century under Ivan the Great, who invited Italian architects to help create a fortress that would be a symbol of Moscow's growing power. Within these walls, a city within a city emerged. It is not a single building, but a vast enclosed complex containing a stunning array of palaces, armories, and most spectacularly, cathedrals. The soaring golden domes of Cathedral Square are the spiritual heart of the fortress, the site where Tsars were crowned and buried for centuries. Today, the Kremlin serves a dual role. It remains the official residence of the President of the Russian Federation and the center of the nation's political life, a place where decisions that shape the world are made. Yet, it is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a living museum, open to visitors who can walk the same cobblestones as Ivan the Terrible and Catherine the Great. This blend of living history and contemporary power makes the Kremlin a unique and captivating place, a symbol of Russia's enduring strength, its deep spiritual roots, and its central role on the world stage. Russia's immense size means it is inevitably a land of superlatives, a place where the extremes of nature are found on a scale that boggles the mind. It seems to collect world records as a matter of course. If you were to search for Europe's longest river, you would find it here, the Volga, which winds its way for over 3,500 kilometers through the heart of Western Russia, serving as a vital artery for transport and culture, affectionately known as Mother Volga. It is a river that has been central to the nation's history and identity for centuries. The superlatives continue into the realm of climate. In the vast Republic of Sakha, deep in Siberia, lies the town of Oymyakon. This remote settlement holds the unenviable title of the coldest permanently inhabited place on Earth. Here, winter temperatures regularly plummet to below -50 degrees Celsius, and the simple act of survival becomes a daily challenge. The ground is in a state of permanent frost. Cars must be left running for fear their engines will freeze solid, and life is lived in a way that is almost unimaginable to those in more temperate climes. And then there are the forests. Russia is home to the Siberian taiga, the largest forest on the planet. This colossal expanse of coniferous trees, larger than the entire Amazon rainforest, stretches across thousands of kilometers. It is one of the world's most important ecosystems, acting as a massive lung for the planet, absorbing vast quantities of carbon dioxide and producing oxygen. From its longest river to its coldest town to its largest forest, Russia is a continuous display of nature's power and grandeur, a land where everything seems to exist on a more epic, more dramatic scale. One of the first things you'll notice when you visit Russia is the way they write. The letters we're used to in English and other Western languages are different here. Instead, you'll see a beautiful, but maybe a little strange set of characters. This is the Cyrillic alphabet. It's what gives the Russian language its special look. At first, the words might seem like a secret code, but this alphabet has a really interesting story, and it's super connected to how the Slavic world grew in culture and religion. Now, the Cyrillic alphabet wasn't actually invented in Russia, even though you might think so. It started way back in the 9th century, in a place called the First Bulgarian Empire. It was created by students of two Greek brothers, Saint Cyril and Methodius. They were missionaries, meaning they traveled to teach people about their religion, and they went to the Slavic people. Their main goal was to turn the Bible and other religious books into the language of the people living there, which was Old Church Slavonic. To do this, they needed an alphabet that could perfectly show the special sounds of the Slavic languages. And that's how Cyrillic was born. It was mostly based on the Greek alphabet, but they added more letters for those unique Slavic sounds. Over many years, different Slavic countries started using and changing the alphabet. The version Russia uses today was updated and made more modern by Peter the Great in the 1700s. It's a strong symbol of a shared history and culture. Not just Russia uses it, but also countries like Belarus, Ukraine, Bulgaria, Serbia, and even places in Central Asia that used to be part of the Soviet Union. If you learn even a few letters of the Cyrillic alphabet, like knowing that P is actually an R sound and C is an S sound, it's like finding a key. It helps you unlock a small part of the mystery and lets you hear the familiar sounds hidden inside this fancy and old way of writing. The history of Russia is inextricably linked with the rule of its powerful and often formidable leaders, the Tsars. This title, which evokes images of absolute power, opulent courts, and sweeping imperial ambition, has its formal origins in 16th century Moscow. The word Tsar, much like the German Kaiser, is derived from the Roman imperial title Caesar. By adopting it, the rulers of Moscow were making a bold statement. They saw themselves as the rightful heirs to the Roman and Byzantine empires, and Moscow as the Third Rome. The first ruler to be formally crowned as Tsar of all Rus was Ivan IV, who ascended to the throne in 1547. History would come to know him by a more fearsome name, Ivan the Terrible. His reign was a tumultuous period of great reform, territorial expansion, and brutal purges. He centralized power, conquered vast territories like the Khanates of Kazan and Astrakhan, and laid the foundations of the autocratic state that would define Russia for centuries to come. His coronation marked a pivotal moment, transforming the Grand Prince of Moscow into an emperor with near-divine authority. The era of the Tsars would last for nearly 400 years, producing a succession of rulers whose names are legendary. Peter the Great, the towering modernizer who built St. Petersburg; Catherine the Great, the enlightened despot who expanded the empire to its greatest extent; and Nicholas II, the last Tsar, whose tragic end brought the Romanov dynasty and the imperial era to a close in the fires of revolution. The legacy of the Tsars is etched into the very fabric of Russia, visible in its palaces, its laws, and its enduring tradition of strong centralized leadership. To journey through the historic cities of Russia is to be constantly in awe of its architectural grandeur. This is a land where rulers and spiritual leaders sought to express their power and piety through structures of breathtaking scale and beauty. The skylines are not defined by skyscrapers, but by the glittering golden cupolas of Orthodox cathedrals and the sprawling, ornate facades of imperial palaces. These buildings are not just stone and mortar, they are monuments to faith, ambition, and a unique Russian aesthetic. Perhaps no building is more iconic than St. Basil's Cathedral on Moscow's Red Square. Commissioned by Ivan the Terrible, it is a fantastical explosion of color and shape, with its swirling, onion-shaped domes that look more like something from a fairy tale than a place of worship. Each chapel is unique, creating a structure that is joyfully chaotic and utterly unforgettable. It stands as a vibrant symbol of a Russia that is both deeply spiritual and wildly imaginative, a stark contrast to the severe walls of the neighboring Kremlin. Further north, in the imperial capital of St. Petersburg, a different kind of grandeur holds sway. Here, the Winter Palace, now home to the world-renowned Hermitage Museum, stretches for hundreds of meters along the Neva River. Its sea green and white facade is a masterpiece of Baroque design, a statement of imperial power and European sophistication built by Peter the Great's successors. Inside, its gilded halls and grand staircases were the setting for centuries of courtly intrigue and lavish balls. From the solemn ancient cathedrals of the Kremlin to the spectacular palaces of the Tsars, Russia's architecture tells a story of a nation that has always dared to build on a truly epic scale. We return once more to the ancient waters of Lake Baikal, for its wonders are not limited to its immense size and age. Because of its long, uninterrupted history and deep isolation, Baikal has become a cradle of evolution, a place where life has taken a unique and extraordinary path. It is honestly a veritable Galapagos of Russia, hosting a stunning array of plants and animals that are found nowhere else on the planet. Scientists estimate that more than half of all the species living in Lake Baikal are endemic, meaning they are entirely unique to this one ecosystem. This includes a fascinating array of creatures that seem to be living fossils. There are the omul, a type of whitefish that is a local delicacy, and the golomyanka, a bizarre translucent fish that is almost 40% oil and gives birth to live young instead of laying eggs. There are also giant prehistoric-looking crustaceans that thrive in the crushing pressure of the lake's deepest trenches. These creatures have adapted perfectly to the cold, oxygen-rich waters over millions of years, creating a complex and delicate food web. But perhaps the most remarkable and unexpected resident of Baikal is a mammal. The Baikal seal, or nirpa, is one of the only exclusively freshwater seal species in the world. How their ancestors arrived in this landlocked lake, hundreds of kilometers from the nearest ocean, remains a profound scientific mystery. Seeing these charming silver-furred creatures popping their heads through holes in the ice is a truly magical experience. They are really the ultimate symbol of Baikal's uniqueness, a living, breathing testament to the power of evolution in isolation. When one thinks of Russia, the word Siberia often comes to mind, conjuring images of a vast, frozen and desolate wasteland. While the cold is very real, this perception only scratches the surface of this immense and varied region. Siberia is a territory of staggering proportions, making up nearly 3/4, a full 77% of Russia's total land area. It stretches from the Ural Mountains in the west to the Pacific Ocean in the east, and from the Arctic Ocean in the north to the borders of Mongolia and China in the south. It is, in many ways, a subcontinent in its own right. Despite its colossal size, Siberia is remarkably sparsely populated. The harsh climate and challenging terrain mean that only about a quarter of Russia's population lives here. This results in a population density that is among the lowest on Earth, with vast stretches of wilderness where one can travel for days without seeing another human soul. This is a land of profound silence and solitude, where nature, not humanity, reigns supreme. The landscape is one of dramatic extremes, encompassing the endless flat wetlands of the West Siberian Plain, the dense forests of the taiga, and the rugged mountain ranges of the east. But Siberia is far from empty. It is a treasure chest of natural resources containing enormous deposits of oil, natural gas, coal, diamonds and gold, which are vital to the Russian economy. It is also home to vibrant modern cities like Novosibirsk and Krasnoyarsk, centers of science, industry and culture that honestly defy the stereotype of a frozen backwater. Siberia is a land of paradoxes, immense yet sparsely inhabited, brutally cold yet rich in resources, remote yet crucial to the nation's future. It is the wild, untamed heart of Russia. In the latter half of the 18th century, the Russian throne was occupied by one of history's most formidable and fascinating female rulers. Born a minor German princess, she came to power through a coup d'état and would go on to rule the Russian Empire for 34 years. This was Catherine the Great, and her reign is often considered a golden age for Russia, a period of immense territorial expansion, cultural flourishing, and ambitious reform that firmly established Russia as a major European power. Catherine was a correspondent of Voltaire and other leading figures of the Enlightenment. She saw herself as an enlightened despot, a ruler who would use her absolute power to modernize her nation's laws, administration, and culture. She established the Smolny Institute, the first state-financed institution of higher education for women in Europe, and was a passionate patron of the arts, amassing the collection that would form the basis of the Hermitage Museum. She also undertook a massive legislative project to rationalize Russia's legal code, though many of her most liberal ideas were ultimately never implemented. Alongside these cultural and legal reforms, Catherine was a relentless expansionist. Through successful wars against the Ottoman Empire and the partitioning of Poland, she dramatically expanded Russia's borders to the south and west, incorporating vast new territories like Crimea and much of modern-day Ukraine. By the end of her reign, Russia was larger and more powerful than ever before, stretching its influence across Europe. Catherine the Great's legacy is, well, complex, a champion of enlightenment who also strengthened serfdom, but her impact in shaping the powerful, sprawling Russian Empire of the 19th century is undeniable. Russia's turbulent and dramatic history, combined with a deep-seated reverence for art and culture, has resulted in a nation that is, honestly, a paradise for museum lovers. It's not just about a few famous institutions in Moscow and St. Petersburg. The sheer number of museums scattered across this vast country is, well, truly astounding. Officially, Russia is home to over 2,700 museums, each one a custodian of a particular piece of the nation's complex story. This vast network preserves everything from priceless imperial treasures to the humble artifacts of rural life. Of course, the collection is headlined by world-famous titans. The State Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg is one of the largest and oldest museums in the world, with a collection of over 3 million items that spans from prehistoric cultures to the masterpieces of Western European art. To simply walk through its halls is a journey through human creativity. In Moscow, the Tretyakov Gallery holds the foremost collection of Russian fine art, tracing the entire history of the nation's artistic development, from ancient icons to the revolutionary works of the 20th century avant-garde. But beyond these giants, there are thousands more. You'll find literary museums in the former homes of writers like Tolstoy and Dostoevsky, military museums commemorating epic battles, museums of science and space exploration, and ethnographic museums celebrating the diverse cultures of Russia's many peoples. Even small towns often have their own local history museum, a proud repository of the community's heritage. This immense collection of institutions demonstrates a profound national commitment to preserving the past and making it accessible, ensuring that the stories of Russia, in all their variety, are not forgotten. The vast forested wilderness of Russia is, without a doubt, one of the last great strongholds for some of the world's most impressive wildlife. When people think of Russian fauna, one animal in particular often comes to mind: the bear. The brown bear, or Ursus arctos, is a powerful symbol of the Russian nation itself, strong, resilient, and deeply connected to the forest. Russia is home to the largest population of brown bears on the planet, with numbers estimated in the hundreds of thousands. They roam the sprawling taiga and the remote mountains, from the forests near Finland to the volcanic peninsula of Kamchatka. In Kamchatka, these bears grow to an enormous size, rivaling the grizzlies of North America as they feast on the abundant salmon that choke the rivers during their annual spawning runs. Seeing these magnificent creatures in their natural habitat is a truly humbling experience, a reminder of the raw, untamed power that still exists in the world's wild places. They are the undisputed kings of the Russian forest, a keystone species that shapes the ecosystem around them. But, you know, the forest is not just home to giants. The sheer number of smaller creatures is equally astonishing. The Russian forests are teeming with millions upon millions of Eurasian red squirrels. These busy, acrobatic rodents are a constant presence. Their chattering calls and frantic dashes up tree trunks a familiar part of the woodland soundscape. They play a vital role in the forest's life cycle, burying nuts and seeds that later grow into new trees. From the mighty bear to the humble squirrel, the sheer abundance and diversity of life within Russia's vast wilderness is a testament to the health and scale of its incredible ecosystems. The story of Russia is, above all, a story of survival. Few nations in history have endured such a relentless succession of cataclysmic events and existential threats. The resilience of the Russian state and its people is one of its most defining and remarkable characteristics. This is a land that has been forged in the crucible of invasion, war, revolution, and collapse, yet has managed to re-emerge time and again as a major force on the world stage. This capacity for endurance is a central theme running through its entire history. The trials began early. In the 13th century, the nascent Russian principalities were overrun by the Mongol Golden Horde, leading to 2.5 centuries of subjugation that profoundly shaped the nation's political development. Later centuries brought constant warfare with powerful neighbors like Poland, Sweden, and the Ottoman Empire. In the 19th century, Napoleon's Grande Armée, the most powerful military force in Europe, was swallowed by the vast Russian winter and ultimately destroyed. This pattern of absorbing and defeating invaders would be repeated on an even more horrific scale in the 20th century. During World War II, the Soviet Union bore the brunt of the Nazi war machine, suffering staggering losses of more than 25 million people, yet ultimately pushed the invaders back from the gates of Moscow all the way to Berlin. The century ended with another profound trauma, the peaceful yet chaotic collapse of the Soviet Union itself, an event that dismembered a superpower. Through all of this, through Mongol yokes, devastating invasions, bloody revolutions, and political disintegration, a core Russian identity has not only survived, but endured. This epic history of resilience is fundamental to understanding the national psyche. It may seem like a strange historical footnote now, but for over a century, the territory we know as Alaska was not part of the United States, but was a colonial possession of the Russian Empire. In the 18th century, spurred on by the lucrative fur trade, Russian explorers and traders pushed eastwards across the Bering Strait, establishing outposts and claiming the vast, resource-rich land of Russian America. The capital was established at Novoarkhangelsk, now known as Sitka, and Russian Orthodox churches, with their distinctive onion domes, began to appear on the Alaskan landscape. For decades, the Russian-American company managed the territory, primarily harvesting the pelts of sea otters and seals. However, by the mid-19th century, the colony was becoming increasingly difficult and expensive for the distant government in St. Petersburg to maintain and defend. The sea otter population had been decimated by overhunting, the profits were dwindling, and the empire was still recovering financially from the costly Crimean War. Furthermore, Russia feared that it might lose the territory to its rival, Great Britain, in a future conflict without any compensation. So, in 1867, Tsar Alexander II made a pragmatic decision. He authorized the sale of the entire territory to the United States. The deal was negotiated by U.S. Secretary of State William H. Seward, who agreed to a price of $7.2 million, which equates to less than 2 cents per acre. At the time, the purchase was widely mocked in the American press as Seward's folly or Seward's icebox. Few could have imagined the immense wealth in gold, oil, and other resources that lay hidden beneath the ice and mountains of this vast northern land that was once Russia's farthest frontier. The cultural calendar in Russia is marked by a number of unique holidays and traditions that offer a fascinating glimpse into the nation's soul, blending ancient pagan roots, Orthodox Christian faith, and Soviet-era history. While Christmas is celebrated, it is the New Year, or Novi God, that is the most important and beloved festival of the year. This is largely a legacy of the Soviet period, when religious celebrations were suppressed and the secular New Year's holiday absorbed many Christmas traditions. On New Year's Eve, families across the country gather for a massive feast, watch a traditional variety show on television, and listen to the president's address just before midnight. A decorated fir tree, the yolka, is a centerpiece of the home. But instead of Santa Claus, it is Ded Moroz, or Grandfather Frost, who brings gifts to children. He is often accompanied by his beautiful granddaughter, the Snegurochka, or Snow Maiden. The celebration is a magical time of hope and renewal, eagerly anticipated by all. Another fascinating holiday is Maslenitsa, also known as Butter Week or Pancake Week. It is an ancient Slavic sun festival that takes place the week before the start of Orthodox Lent. It's a joyous, raucous celebration meant to welcome the end of winter and the coming of spring. Throughout the week, people cook and eat enormous quantities of blini, thin crepe-like pancakes, symbolizing the warm, round sun. The week culminates in the burning of a large straw effigy of Lady Maslenitsa, a symbolic farewell to winter's cold and a vibrant, communal embrace of the warmth to come. Our journey across this vast and complex nation now draws to a close. We have traversed 11 time zones, peered into the planet's deepest lake, and stood in the shadow of ancient fortresses. We've seen that Russia is not a single, simple entity, but a world within a world, a place of profound contradictions and staggering beauty. It is a land where the echoes of Tsars and cosmonauts mingle, where the poetry of Pushkin exists alongside the silent, immense presence of the Siberian tiger. The scale of it all, the land, the history, the triumphs, and the tragedies, is almost too great to hold in the mind at once. What one takes away from such an exploration is a sense of immense depth. Behind every fact lies a millennium of history, behind every landscape, a story of survival. The resilience of its diverse peoples, the enduring power of its culture, and the sheer untamed majesty of its natural world all combine to create a nation that continues to fascinate and surprise. It challenges our perceptions and invites us to look beyond the transient headlines to the deeper, more permanent truths that are written on the land and in the spirit of its inhabitants. The future of this immense land remains, as it has always been, a story yet to be written. But its past provides a powerful testament to its capacity for endurance and transformation. Russia will, without doubt, continue to play a crucial role in the story of our planet. And by seeking to understand it in all its complexity and grandeur, we gain a richer understanding not just of one nation, but of the extraordinary diversity and resilience of the human experience itself. Thank you for joining me.